This is Podaholiks. My name's James Piecowye. Welcome to Tech Talk with myself and Andrew Thomas from digitalnexa.com. And for the next 50 minutes, we're going to be talking technology. We got a great list of stuff. And what we're not going to get to is AC/DC, but we'll do that next show. But we've got a whole bunch for you to dive into. It all starts right now, right here on Podaholiks with Tech Talk. There we go. We're starting to notice the issues that are going on with a lot of our delivery companies and that. And I mean, shop and ship, it works really well. The Aramex guys, their shop and ship works really well, unless it doesn't work really well. And when it doesn't work really well, I've had incidents where my stuff has got lost or whatever, or it slowed down at one of their transaction points. And whenever that happens, just frustrating.
Yeah, my Fire Sticks dragged. They basically had the wrong delivery address, an old address, and an address that actually I don't even know how they got that address because we weren't with Shop and Ship when we were there, which was pretty special. And after nearly 3 weeks of it being in country and keep going to the same address, we managed to get through to someone to put it to one of the boxes, one of the external drop box, and it literally happened within a day. So I think, some of these. I guess when you're using some of these services, like they're a workaround basically, right? I mean, it allows you and I to ship things from the US and Europe, and they're fantastic. I've been using them for years, but there's still, I guess, a workaround, and perhaps in a workaround world, when the whole system logistically is flooded, because there must be a lot more people using Shop and Ship, right? Just like there's a lot more people using online ordering, right? There must be.
Well, and the other thing with shop and ship in country that makes it work really well is just what you said. As soon as you can go to the drop boxes, it's fantastic. If they have to now start delivering to your house again or your office or whatever, then you're done for. So it's and they finally reopen those. So this is a good thing.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the big problem with e-commerce is always that last mile or that last kilometer. Yeah. Everything's pretty easy up to that point. It really is. Exactly. It's kind of it's the technology is relatively straightforward. There's a lot of automation involved, but logistics. I mean, that's why there's been books written on how Amazon handle the logistics, even their warehousing. I don't know if we've spoken about this before, but their warehousing is they group items together what people buy. It's not by
I didn't know that.
Or they don't. You look at their. There's a whole book that's been written on the system of storage in Amazon warehousing. So you get kind of items that are bought together, and then you get stacked items and books, and then next to a book you'll get a Rubik's cube, and it's bizarre, but it's all designed to enable the pickers to do their job super fast. But I mean, obviously it's moving to automation now. But when there's still people on the warehouse floor. I mean, that's what's happening. People are going and collecting things. Instead of going, Linksys is over there, I'll go there, and then this is there. They kind of pull it all together, which is, I'll try and find the name of that book. But yeah, super interesting.
I got to look at that because, I did. Have you ever done that job as a picker? That's the craziest job, going around.
No, I haven't actually. No, it's I've done some interesting things, but mine were usually food based when I was younger. Quick service and restaurants and bowling alleys and things like that.
Oh man. One of the ones that I'm following right now is this SpaceX launch with the Dragon capsule. I don't know if you're paying attention to that one. And this is just caught my attention in, I just hadn't been thinking that they were ready to actually send a couple astronauts up in this capsule and give it a try. It's pretty, exciting and scary at the same time. But what caught my eye is when I started, I've been looking at some of the footage of the two astronauts who are going to go up, and they're showing the spacecraft. And the guys were walking across the gantry in, getting ready, doing a trial run in their spacesuits. And the first thing I noticed is I'm looking at it, and I had to take a double take because I thought this is 2001 Space Odyssey. Like nothing at all looks like the way I think of astronauts, because and I kept looking at it going, why do these guys not look like they're ready to go to space? What's off about it? And then as I'm reading through some of the literature, and specifically this article that I was looking at, they were saying, well, there hasn't been any real development in spacesuits for this kind of travel in 40 years. I mean, you're using Soviet stuff. Before that, they were using the American stuff. Okay, we had the space shuttle where they had slightly different costumes, or costumes.
Yeah. Costumes.
That's making us think. They never went up there.
Didn't actually go to space there, James. You a flat earther.
But they, slightly different suits. But these guys, it looked to me like 2001: Space Odyssey. I was just going, wow, like this is pretty impressive.
Yeah, they it's interesting, isn't it, when private enterprise kind of enters. You've got obviously the SpaceX and Blue Origin and some of the with Jeff Bezos. So they've obviously been inspired by the look of it, of all this sci-fi that they've watched growing up as a kid, and
clearly
tried to implement that as well. I mean, he was on, I don't know if you listened to Joe Rogan, but he was on the Joe Rogan podcast again. And previous to that, there was the head of his engineering that was saying that it would have happened sooner, but if it wasn't obviously for COVID, they would have been up there already and done this. They've done all the tests. They've kind of passed all of the boxes. But it's exciting to. I think it's exciting to have. Effectively private company, yes, in partnership with NASA, but getting people up there again.
$3.1 billion effort is what's gone into launching these folks off of American soil. And I think there's a lot of patriotism on the American front there. Given that the only way to get up to the space station right now is using a Soviet Soviet spacecraft. Tried and true, mind you. There's a lot to be said for this. But what I'm really interested in, and this is something that there's going to be a lot more coming out about this, but this spacecraft lands on Earth. This thing comes back down, fires its retros, and lands on a launch pad. Can you imagine? That? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and kind of more traditional how, you would have saw Thunderbirds and everything, right? Yeah. Where it literally takes off vertically, lands vertically, as opposed to, it's fascinating really, but obviously with Space Shuttle, Discovery and all these, they used to just glide in. They had nothing. They were flying a paper airplane at that point when they were coming back in, which is incredibly brave and a feat of engineering at the same time, right? Just scary stuff where they've literally got nothing. They're just kind of gliding back in, and it was just old tech, like you said. Old tech kind of gets replaced, and in this case, obviously, it costs quite a bit of money to replace that old tech, doesn't it?
Yeah, and just the mind.
You're still using. You imagine. We're sitting here on perhaps MacBooks that are 2 years old, and there's some things that are lagging. Imagine using some technology that's 40 years old.
Well, that's it. I'm thinking some of these spacesuits that they're wearing, and what's going on in at the Cosmodrome there in Russia. That's old tech that it's using old tech in the capsules. Great, they're reusable and it works. Hey, there's something to be said for it. Yeah. But that's old tech. It's like,
exactly. Super old. So the frustration of running old laptops and old phones. Imagine being, out of your own atmosphere and relying on something that's 40 years old. I'd struggle to go to a shop with an old phone. I think I remember you remember I went through a retro phase when I found one of my old Nokias, and I think I lasted about a week. And I was like, no, I can't deal with this. It's too slow.
What's going on?
I wasn't orbiting Earth.
What's going on in your world? What do you got going on?
And so what I pulled up actually, which I wanted to talk briefly about, was something that I can't believe people are still doing it, and that's jailbreaking phones. Yeah. So the new iOS jailbreak tool can still unlock the latest iPhones, and I just I find it amazing. I find it amazing that people. I'll be honest. The very first iPhone I had, we didn't have an app store here. We couldn't get an app store. It was very, so I jailbreaked my first phone, went down to one of the guys down the lane center and got it jailbreaked. And then we're able to download certain apps and have it on there. But I don't know why you are continuing to jailbreak phones. I mean, obviously there's people, the article that I pulled up here is talking about the fact that they've just, want to make sure that from a hacker's perspective, you can't exploit it. But I guess, I mean, there's still possibly now, I mean, it's that Criminality Act where people don't want to pay for apps or I mean, some people say they do it because they want to personalize the experience. So, things like when you flow it up, you get all the little funny wheels. But I'd almost think this is more of a play that, well, actually, I want that $8 app, but I don't want to pay for it. What do you reckon?
Probably. I mean, I can't think of any reason why you would want to be jailbreaking these days when it's so easy to get access to pretty much everything. Yeah, maybe folks want to download a bunch of apps. Maybe they want to, although in so many of the apps that I've been using these days, you get a free trial with them. You get a few days to sort of see if you like it. And if you like it, why wouldn't you pay the 8, 10, the most expensive app I've seen recently is something I was looking at. It was $30 Canadian. And I thought, it's like, man, you know what? After using it for 7 days, I said, it's worth $30. It's absolutely worth it. And I think increasingly I look at it and I think someone had to take the time to write it. Someone's taken the time to look at their experience. They put it together. Why do I want to steal this? Like, what's in it for me? So
I don't understand it. I just found it interesting that people were, I mean, I suppose the thing is this kind of brings me on to the other one that I put up there, which was, people try to attain or aspire certain things, and sometimes they will break the law to do it, and other times they'll just use massive inspiration. I mean, I put up this Realme Apple Watch lookalike. I don't know if you saw that, but this is astonishing. It's $53. So it's a company out of China. Funnily enough, they've been going for 2 years, and they've just really gone after the Indian market. But they're selling. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to say that that's not an Apple Watch, right? I mean, you saw the images. I mean, that is pretty much Apple Watch, isn't it?
Yeah.
$53.
Yeah.
You'd be tempted to buy that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, why? I mean, I get why you want to have it on your wrist, even if you're not using it. It's that, I've got my Apple Watch. Look, he's wearing an Apple Watch. And I get that side, because the more that I'm doing these kind of video conference things, or you see someone, you're sizing up the entire package, right? And you're looking at what kind of glasses they got, what kind of watch they got, what kind of phone they got. And I know we say we don't do it, but everyone does it. And you notice it's just that subtle thing. Oh, they're wearing an Apple Watch. So I get why people would want to do it, but is it going to work like you want it to work? And if it is, interesting that they're coming off the production line somewhere and someone's making that work. But it's there to me that just there's that it's that gray line of, if I'm willing to rip that stuff off, where am I going to draw the line on other things?
I mean, for that kind of cost, quality has to kind of be misplaced, right? It must be. I mean, I this last week I looked to buy just a kind of simple 8-inch tablet. And I was astonished the amount of tablets out there,
it's
and from companies I'd never heard of as well. And also, I think what's interesting is it must be a consumer rights thing that I was shopping around on noon on Amazon and had a look on Giraffe and a few of the other places, and some of them popped up really, really kind of, well, that's an cheap almost price. So the range I was looking at was kind of like the 8-inch. So I'll tell you the reason I was looking locally is because basically there's a new Fire tablet out. So in the States at the moment, I couldn't get the 8, the old one with the, everyone wants to push the new 10, and it's not out until I think 6th of June or something. So ordinarily I would have just gone for a Fire tablet, but it forced me to look locally. And what was interesting was the amount of different like iPad wannabes out there, I guess. But what I found myself doing was I found myself being more drawn to like a Samsung. I ended up buying a Samsung 80 or whatever, and I'll tell you how it looks and stuff. But once we tested it, but there was the Huawei's, the Axiom XIMO, One Touch, TouchMate, Merlin. I mean, there was that space is so busy, and there was anywhere from, I'd say, probably 450 up to about top end 950.
Okay.
950 was kind of the Lenovo, right? They do a
What
Lenovo
kind of
pad
spec were
on a
you
hinge.
looking at? What kind of spec did you
It
have on your
was
wish list?
kind
What
of
did you?
like the 32 gig with expandable SD,
Mhm.
that kind of range. I was interested to see how much bang you got for your buck at that price point.
Yeah.
But for me, it was I actually leaned again back to Samsung because the combination of year, so it's like 2019 plus expandable memory, plus in the back of my head, I'm like, it's a Samsung.
Yeah.
You've
The
got the
badge
quality, you've
is a
got the
tough one, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's difficult to move away from that
Mm.
because there was other products, brands I never heard of that were more expensive, and I'm like, how? I mean, okay, yeah, the spec is a bit better, but it was kind of Samsung won out basically. Um, and I'm trying, and it was cheaper than some of the others. But I think there's so many of these kind of Chinese copycats out there that they kind of tend to go after the lower end market and try to gain some foothold or dominance in that space, and then basically I think almost get the buy-in and then start to gradually increase their phone specs. I mean, I think Huawei did the same, where
Mm.
you would never be spending any more than 2,000 dirhams on the Huawei, but the latest one's like 3.5, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
4,000. I mean, it's
Yeah. They're right up
more
there
aligned
with
with Apple.
yeah, which is very interesting. There's the big challenge I always face with when we start talking about this crowded space, and as you said,
Yeah,
all of these products tend to come out of China anyway, and so for me, the
yeah,
big
true.
question is always: are the technology companies who are building these things in China, are they doing some of the research in China? Is this just an authentic space that we're only seeing a little bit more of? Whereas if we were in the Chinese market, we would be overrun with
Yeah,
possibility. I often wonder about that.
yeah, it's true actually. Yeah, we kind of we see a glimpse, don't we?
Yeah.
We see a kind of glimmer. I mean, I know when we first started talking about Axiom or whatever, the
Yeah.
XIOMII, I was astonished to find that they've got 5 stores here.
Yeah.
They've got like Apple-esque stores. I worry about a company that makes trainers and then also makes smartphones. I don't know. I mean, I think what's interesting is, so we don't see that side of Samsung, right? But
Yeah.
Samsung does the same thing. Samsung in Korea dominates and makes everything.
Yeah.
It's high end tech, so railway, monorails, all the way down to your phone in your hand. So I guess that kind of works, but we kind of think about technology partners focusing on one area and taking a focus and concentrating their efforts. But I don't
Yeah.
know. It's odd, isn't it?
When do you take delivery of this tablet?
It'll be coming the next couple of days, so we can do a bit of a review.
Yeah.
First time I've kind of had an Android device for a while, so I think it would be good to see and kind of road test it a bit.
What made you decide to go Android as opposed to heading down to the old getting online to Apple and getting one of the tablets that they're offering? Because they got a great range as well.
Yeah, it is price point.
Mm.
I just this the kind of price point on an iPad Mini, I think, is nearly probably 3-4 times the price. Just can justify it. Just for what I need it for. It was like I said, my first point was Fire tablet.
Yeah.
That was the range I was thinking, and then looking at the specs associated to that. So I honestly would have bought the Fire tablet if it was available. I mean, that's I can't fault those. The ones that I got previously, the kids Fire tablets, $50.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they stop working after a year, I mean, it's less than $5 a month.
Yeah.
That's cost. So it's yeah, and now the new Fire tablets. I think I probably will buy one anyway. But the new Fire tablets now have a USB-C connector.
Yeah.
So they're improving that. That was a connection issue definitely on some of the old tablets. It's just a bit fiddly. that connector. So I think with that improvement, you're going to see a lot of people, and you can interestingly enough, there's a couple of an app you can buy called Downloader that allows you to download Android apps on the device as well. So
Really?
So most of they have their own app store. Amazon have their own app store, and they do have most things. So they do have like your Netflix of the world and your browsers. But a lot of the things that we kind of use a lot, like it's a YouTube. It doesn't have a native YouTube app. So
Okay.
there's something called Downloader that you can download. We were talking about jailbreaking, but this isn't. It's not. It's not.
Yeah, it sounded like you're jailbreaking this.
It's not jailbreaking. It's actually an emulator.
Okay.
So it emulates it. So you can kind of run the app. So you still pay for them. It's on the Play Store and everything if you want to download it, but it's an emulator. Because interestingly enough, I was looking at I went down a rabbit hole on as far as emulators, and I found an emulator for the MacBook.
Okay.
So there's a huge company called Blue Shields that actually you can download for free an emulator on your Mac, and it allows you to play. I mean, it's mainly directed at games companies, but it allows you, or gamers, it allows you to play Android apps and a lot of games straight from your Mac in an emulator, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know how many times you've fallen down that rabbit hole. You kind of look for something and you come up for air, and it's 3 hours have gone.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. It happens a lot on YouTube, I think, as well. But they rely on the fact, that you link, and then you find yourself in deepest, darkest emulator territory. But the time and effort that people put into some of these things is phenomenal. I mean, there was a whole kind of community on YouTube dedicated to emulating Android on Mac, and I'm like, really? And it's just kind of, it's amazing, isn't it, that people just spend the time and effort to build out this content. But I suppose the thing is, people may be asking the same thing. Well, what are you crazy guys doing? Doing your podcasting. Although, I mean, we should probably talk about this. The fact that Joe Rogan, because obviously he is famously a podcaster.
Did you see that?
He's now jumped over to Spotify for 150 million.
Hey, that's where we broadcast out of. We're in good company.
Yeah. That's give me 1 second here, because this is the fun of working.
So it's always interesting as we're doing podcasts, because Andrew's coming to us, as you can see, from his home, and he's got his family. And fortunately, my family my kids aren't here. So
I'm back. I'm back.
No Joe Rogan goes over to Spotify.
Yeah. I think it was interesting though. I wondered. So when you hear Joe Rogan, he talks about the fact a lot of the time that he's reliant on these other platforms, right? So he has Jamie there who checks religiously what can go up on YouTube, and then he delayed putting up on YouTube because people were taking clips and then putting it up on YouTube and monetizing his own content away from him. So he then stopped putting the whole show up. So I'm wondering if, now he's gone to Spotify to basically control his environment, and also potentially the video option, which again made me think, well, Spotify is not a place that you traditionally go to look at video, although there are video on there. It's not. So I'm wondering if they're going to break out this whole podcast area with video, because
maybe.
a lot of people watch podcasts. There are some podcasts that I enjoy watching. I watch like a lot of the comedian-based ones. I like watching them, right? Because you see the quirkiness, you see the interaction, especially if there's 2 or more people. I find it easier to watch a podcast. So there's guys that do usually like 4 of them. Listening to that is a bit frantic, right? Sometimes, but here, watching it's good. So, I mean, what do you think about it? What do you we're only speculating here, but what do you think he kind of made that move? Aside from obviously someone gifting him $150 million.
Hey, look, I think first and foremost, I think there's a money issue there. And he's, Joe Rogan, this is a business for him. So 150 mil.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a nice way to do this. And that suddenly takes a whole edge off what he's doing. And I think on one hand, you could look at this and you can say, hey, I've made the money. I'm good. And now I'm just going to keep doing great content because I've got a great fan base. I've got a great following base. I got a great system in place to put this together. And now I've got a guaranteed platform that I know is working and is continuing to expand. And I think up to about now, and I would say up to about the last 6 months, look, Spotify's been working tirelessly to expand its base. It's been working tirelessly to build. I think with COVID, it has absolutely reached a critical mass. And I think people who were following or people who were on the edge have bought into it. And as soon as you go into one of those trials, whether it's a 1 month or a 3 month, you're not going back.
Yeah.
The quality's a little bit better. The programming's better. They put you into a different tier. So they start sending you more stuff to look at that you weren't getting. You're going to spend your whatever it is a month for that service. And so I think in the case of Joe Rogan, look, now he knows on his Spotify network, he's got a guaranteed listener base. He knows that they work tirelessly to promote their content, and his content's going to be on the top of the heap. As when you go to the podcast, his is going to be up there. I think for him, it makes a lot of sense. Will he still be able to put it up on other places? I think that opens up a really good question, and I can't see why Spotify wouldn't be thinking about some kind of video option, but they're very careful, these guys. And they're very careful because they know YouTube has got an angle on this. Challenge with YouTube is the curating part of it and how they do that and how they put it together. So, if Spotify's looking to jump into that realm, a lot like Apple has done and others, maybe this is a nice little trial balloon. Hey, we've got someone and we've got a small group of folks who are creating video content. It's good. We know it works. It's been tried and tested through other platforms. Maybe that's okay. I think it'll be interesting to see if he can still put up his stuff on YouTube, delayed, but still put it up on YouTube with the video because Spotify's not offering the video. So that will be very interesting to see how that's worked out.
But I think they're going to use this. I think they're going to use this to try and look at some other options because I think so. They're talking about gating the content anyway. So certain content will be gated or delayed release or anything. I mean, I think they're looking at this potentially as rolling out some new options for people to watch some podcasts because I think like you said, I think obviously the money is there. It's odd really. I mean, there's still people that don't really believe, that podcasts are anything. And this almost legitimizes it. I mean, this is the first big, I think everyone knew when the numbers came out that Joe Rogan generated, I think 25 million last year or something.
Yeah.
And people kind of went, oh, hold on a minute, you can make money off podcasts, probably including ourselves. But you kind of look at that, and then now you look at obviously there's a solid investment from a large organization to legitimize it almost. It kind of feels. I mean, it isn't something he's done overnight. This is something he's been working on, for 10 plus years, religiously, getting, and obviously it's dramatically increased the quality of interviewees that he's had over the years, and he's really found his place. But I know that, his whole thing was that he wouldn't change for anybody. He wouldn't not do something. He wouldn't not interview someone. It was all very personal based. So it's interesting that, he said that he still has full creative control, full content control and everything. It's just he's been given a new home, and interesting. I mean, I think that potentially if you look at most of these platforms basically become interesting for people as soon as you can monetize themselves, right? So if you look at, for example, the YouTubes of the world, people go on YouTube as content creators because they can monetize themselves. IGTV is now creating that space that is monetizing themselves, right? And also, if you look at Spotify, and I found, for example, in Apex, which is the Apex Gaming that does Fortnite, there's actually a content creator section in there that you can create your own content, that you can monetize it. So again, it's, these communities, a lot of these communities now seem to be driven through monetization. So I think any kind of platform or community that starts to grow and starts to build, more people jump on it because basically, you're making money from it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to note, look, we publish through Anchor. Anchor is owned by Spotify. Spotify bought Anchor.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I forgot about that.
So there's a clear push by Spotify to build its podcasting network. And I got to say, when I look at Anchor and I look at how we put our stuff up, a huge amount of the data comes out of Spotify at this point. And I've compared, it's interesting when you compare the data across the different platforms. And this is actually a huge issue with podcasting when people say, well, what's your data? The big issue becomes, well, where are you putting it up? And I think for Joe Rogan, this became a really good feature in that a lot of his stuff was going up on YouTube because he was getting then one very clear picture on his audience. If you're publishing on Apple, if you're publishing on Google, if you're publishing on Spotify, all of them give you different data because you're getting data from each of those different streams, and the data is not the same. And so it becomes a really big cornucopia of information that you got to try and process. So for Joe Rogan, it makes a lot of sense. You just go one place, and obviously you'll get a sense of where things are going. And I think for us, having someone like Joe Rogan doing podcasting, that just draws more eyes to that podcasting network off of Spotify, which means they might hit us as a rando, and I'm happy to be in the shadow of Joe Rogan any day.
Exactly. That's it. Podaholiks over there. You mentioned it, you touched upon it about the fact that they must have been looking at data during COVID. I think this has accelerated a lot of people's plans. And I thought this about, we haven't put it in the notes, sorry, but you must have read about it with Facebook launching their shop functionality. And I wonder, that was obviously, it's not something you build overnight, right? Something like this. I mean, it's massive. But I think that something like these plans must have been pulled forward. I mean, that talk about disruption as well. I mean, that's going to completely disrupt the e-commerce market, because now you're going to have the ability with a Facebook, page and with an Instagram page to effectively, monetize your own business. Now, there have been options available to you, which is the shoppable. So you can kind of click on there in a mini, and it takes you to the website. But they're talking about, native buying on the platform. I mean, I hope it comes to this part of the world as well. But did you see this? Did you get a chance to have a look at this as well?
I've been looking at that, and I've also been, I did see that, and I thought that was really cool. And there was also a piece out by McKinsey talking about business function, and again, talking about the online environments, and it's sort of echoing what you're saying on a larger scale, just talking about some of the different cycles that are coming about, and the fact that so much has just been advanced so quickly as people have had some ideas, they're simmering, and they've been on a slow burn, and suddenly they've realized, forget the slow burn, let's just dive into this right away. And they're making a go of it. And the reality is, as we start coming out of the COVID bubble, in one sense, yes, we're coming out. Yes, we can go back to stores. Yes, we can start doing these things. I think there have, and I'm one of those people. There have been a lot of people on the fence with online shopping. And yes, we still want to go to the stores. I want to go to American Eagle and try on a pair of shorts. But I have no issues buying stuff online now. And And it works. Especially if I know exactly what I want. You know that you want to get that Samsung tablet. Why would you go to a Samsung shop when you can buy it online, probably cheaper? They're going to bundle it with some stuff. You get the same warranty. So I thought the Facebook thing was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and
I think there's definitely going to be, people. There's been a massive increase in usage across these platforms. There's obviously more people buying things, and like you said, exploring certain areas that frankly they just didn't have before. I mean, I think one of the biggest, let's say, I'd say the industry that's been hit the most from an e-commerce perspective has been the fashion side of things. I mean, I think obviously fashion retailers, work on seasons still. So now you've got a lot of retailers that have a lot of current season that people are just not buying. So I think you're going to kind of start to see that creep online and see some of this. I mean, the challenge, I guess, with online fashion has always been, you want to, like, you're a size whatever in American Eagle, but if there's a new brand that kind of pops up online, you're like, well, hold on, am I a 32? Am I a 34?
Yeah.
Is it a tight fit? Is it a smooth? You're going to, those are some of the considerations. Whereas you're not thinking about that when it comes to, electronics. You just kind of think, oh yeah, okay, cool, that looks good, and I'm not worried about size or anything like that. But I think obviously they've been hit the worst really with the closure of shops, because people just haven't been able to buy as much fashion, and people haven't been going out.
No.
I mean, you kind of, I think people's wardrobe has probably changed during this time. I mean, I kind of throw on a shirt once a week now just to kind of feel a bit normal again. Whereas, kind of sitting here in my shorts and board shorts, and like most people now, right?
I haven't reached in the closet and put on a pair of trousers. Like I said, I'm wearing board shorts every day. I haven't been wearing shoes and socks. I've been wearing barefoot or flip flops every day. And I'm kind of going,
that's it. Yeah.
Are we going back to the office? Because I kind of like just working in board shorts. But one area.
I do. I mean, I think that was the. Yeah, go on.
One area that I would love, I've never tried online, is buying glasses. And I don't know if you're aware, know anything about the eyeglass industry. There's there's lots of folks selling them online, and there's lots of services. I've never tried any, but I keep thinking, I really should be, because this is,
the Warby Parker thing is interesting, right? In the States. So basically what you do with those guys is you get 3 pairs or 5 pairs, they send them to you, you try them on, you play with them, you have them for a week, and then you send the ones back you don't want.
Yeah.
Now that to me works, because I think that's something, again, that's in your control. I mean, you wear a lot of glasses, you've got different glasses, and you want to see what they look like on your face, you want to see how they match your hair, or whatever, and I think that's a business that hasn't really taken off in this part of the world, because it's too small at the moment. But in the States, I mean, now it's massive. They've launched a couple of, I'll tell you what has been launched here. There's been a few contact lens people that have launched here, right? Because again, contact lenses, I wear contact lenses, you're not fussed about, what color they are or anything, it's just prescription. But have you seen Warby Parker or no?
I have seen them, and I haven't. I mean, I've looked at it and I thought, I should try that out, and I haven't gone for it. But what I'm really surprised about is I had the repair guys come in a couple months ago, and one of the Pakistani guys who was working with them, their foreman, great guy, and he was wearing a neat pair of glasses, and I said, oh, those are great glasses. And he says, oh, let me tell you the story. And I said, what? Okay, the guys are working, we got time. And he says, well, I went to the store here in Dubai to buy them, 800 dirhams. He says, I then took my prescription, took a picture of the frame, sent my prescription to my brother in Pakistan, 30 dirhams for the exact same glasses out of Pakistan. And I'm going, how does that work? All that got me thinking was, how come someone here doesn't have a mail order system going, whereas, hey, you know what, I'll size you up, I'll do this, I'm going to send the order, and we'll Airmex it from Pakistan or India back to the UAE, and I'll get your glasses and I'll have them in a week. And it's not going to be.
It's probably just scale. I mean, I think, famously, glasses are one of those products that there's massive markup on, right? Aftershave, perfume, glasses, sunglasses. I mean, you said it yourself, from 30 dirhams to 800. I think there's massive markup on some of these glasses, for sure. Yeah, they don't. I think obviously you kind of, a lot of the time you're paying for the name when it comes to branded glasses. If you just want standard run-of-the-mill glasses, there's no reason why it should cost you, frankly, any more than 50 dirham anyway, right? I mean, how many pairs of glasses do you own?
I have about 5, but my prescription changed, and I've got to change the lenses. And it's always a poker game when you go to get new lenses, because I've got this and I've got that, and I say, I just want the regulars, please. So so it as long as my prescription stayed the same for so many years, it was excellent. As soon as it changed,
you're not considering getting the green screen ones now, because
I am now.
You're spending a lot more time.
I am now. I'm thinking I need to get those. I need to get the blue screen ones. So, or at least get get ones that have that coating on them. But there's a lot of variety in that. So, but that's something I've really been thinking about. It's funny thinking about it. One of my latest things is I had someone get in touch with me yesterday and said, "Oh, can we do a Zoom?" And I said, and so basically, like yourself, I've allotted so many hours in the week for Zooming, and because I'm not doing business like yourself, I've come to the point where I've said I've got a limited bandwidth in a day. I can't do more than that. And part of it was just because eye strain. Part of it was because I just couldn't then process all the material in time to get to the next phase. Yeah. So I literally said to this guy, I said, look, I can't do it this week. I said, the spots are filled up this week, but I can do it next week.
I'm zoomed out.
And I said to him, I said, I've got limited Zoom space. And he says, I get that. He says, and it's that fine balance that you've got, like yourself, where you're doing business calls, you're working on cultivating the industry and your own business. And where do you draw that line? And because everyone wants everything now, right? And hey, the iron's hot. I need to get in there. So it was an interesting one. But for me, the interesting side was that the person on the other line said, okay, no problem. Let's do it next week. And they kind of went and said, yeah, I did, so many calls this week. I've done so many sessions this week. I get it. And I thought, okay, works for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that Zoom fatigue is very real. I think the challenge is as well that, the amount of interesting webinars that are out there now that I want to kind of be involved in and jump on. That for me is the challenge. For that is timing, because a lot of it is out of the US. So it kicks off at 9 p.m. here. It's conveniently 11 o'clock Pacific, and you're like, oh, hold on a minute, that's like 10 p.m. here. So that's a struggle at the moment. But I found that what I've done is, a lot of the time I've signed up to it, and they've obviously done a re-record and then sent the recording, and then I can watch it at my leisure. But I'm signing up for a lot of these webinars at the moment just to kind of expand the knowledge base, because even like I was watching, obviously we built out Podaholiks on Wix. We wanted to test the platform, and it's phenomenal. And there was a Wix power builder kind of session that was this week, and I kind of, it was an hour and 10 minutes, quite intense. But again, you got these dudes building these massive sites. I mean, ours is a fairly straightforward kind of run of the mill, but again, it was interesting to watch some of these webinars.
It's funny talking about Wix and talking about putting together websites and things we just forget about. And as someone who's working in the realm like yourself, the little things, and I got the, and I remember I sent you a WhatsApp this week saying, hey dude, we need to update our socials on our bios, because I got an email, which I thought was excellent. I thought it was excellent because here we've got a director of an organization who's looking at our bios and is then sending a note to say, hey dude, I know your site's new, but you've got this button is reverting back to a generic site. And I thought, this is
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic that people are looking at it. And then it reminded me,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
get this all the time with the little things that we're working on, that it's these little tiny little things that, yeah, there's a drop down menu, but you
yeah,
forget about them because we're so used to stuff being
yeah, yeah.
integrated so differently. But it's just
Yeah,
it's
no,
so
yeah, it's. I mean, I think the thing is some of these platforms. There's a whole movement now in that space. From apps to web to everything that's kind of no code or little code.
yeah
And I mean, honestly, frankly speaking, some of these platforms are just so intuitive. HubSpot have got a new platform that is phenomenal. It's so intuitive and really kind of just I mean, it's so easy to use, and
yeah
you kind of, if you almost release yourself and say, well, actually, I'm going to build in this platform, I'm going to build in this environment, it
yeah
really goes.
yeah no, for sure. Oh, makes it excellent. Do you have another meeting to run off to, Andrew? Oh no,
I
I've
mute
lost.
myself then. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Awesome.
It's
I
as much as it's locally Eid here, I think everyone's still pretty much working. So yes.
Well, then in that case, we'd better wrap up yet another show of Podaholiks, and this has been a lot of fun. It's been a little low key. I kind of feel in Eid vacation mode because we are coming to you from Dubai, from the Middle East, and it's the Eid holidays as we're recording this particular episode, and I'm feeling really laid back.
Really, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I got to be honest with you. I haven't really kind of I haven't left my place, so I just it's been a regular jaunt, as it were. So yeah, it's I think it was probably needed, the break, and I'm hoping everyone kind of gets back to normal tomorrow. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
Andrew, as always, it's been an awesome one, and we'll catch up again really soon. Podaholiks is what you're listening to. Tech Talk with Andrew Thomas from digitalnexa.com. We've talked about all sorts of great stuff, and you can follow us on all of the socials, Podaholiks with a K, www.podaholikswithak.com, and of course, podaholikswithak@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us. This is Tech Talk on Podaholiks.